What is going on, y'all? Gamers Goon here today in the realistic upset bracket only. Now, this video will be slightly flawed because the criteria of this video is realistic upsets are any upsets, at least the way I'm going to define it, as a 15% chance of higher to 40% chance. So if you look at like Creighton, I'm not picking that upset. We're gonna like Bryant, Michigan. There's no reason to pick that upset. 95% of the time, Michigan State wins, according to the fans. Now, New Mexico, they do fit into it. So that is how we are going to fill out this bracket. If it's between 15 to 40%, we will have upsets. But for example, New Mexico will not be advancing. So then we will readjust in the next round. And I'll explain that as it goes forward. So, like, Marquette has a 15% chance. I'll say New Mexico probably has a lower chance than that. However, like, we're probably going to have this upset here, even though I don't really classify it as an upset. Only 32% of people are picking it. I think they could pull off that Iowa State upset because I don't see them being a significant drop-off of that 29%. So, we will see here where this bracket takes us. It's going to be realistic upsets only, so you're not going to see any 16s really win. Obviously, we have Auburn, Louisville as the favorite there. Michigan, UC San Diego. UC San Diego is sitting 25th. Amount of people want them. 25% of people are taking UC San Diego, which means we are taking UC San Diego because they are in that 15 to 40 range. Texas A&M versus Yale fits that range at 23, so we get a 12-13 matchup there. Ole Miss versus SU and UNC. We are taking UNC there. Iowa State Lipscomb made it close at 9. They had 6% more to go, but they could not get it done. New Mexico will be advancing, and then you got Michigan State, and we already talked about it's not realistic. It's not realistic for New Mexico to beat Michigan State. UNC, I think, wouldn't be too far down from that 29, so they wouldn't fit under 15% chance. So we're going to go with UNC to make that upset. UC San Diego versus Yale. This is one. I'm gonna keep their percentages here. I don't see how their percentages would change much. We'll give UC San Diego the edge here. No, I hate how this app does that on the laptop. We'll give UC San Diego a run, and then Auburn versus Louisville. I'm not up there. Yeah, Louisville doesn't even get 15% of votes here, so it's pretty simple for us there. Auburn, Michigan. Auburn was the front favorites, 87%. We don't have to even debate it on that one. And then here, this one's interesting. UNC, I would say, probably had about a 20% chance, maybe, against Iowa State. Against Michigan State, ooh, they're real close to the threshold. They are real close to the threshold. We're going to have UNC do it. We're going to have UNC do it simply because we do have a 1C coming out of the top, but we are going to have Auburn beat UNC. I think UNC's run has to end at some point. I know this 35% is better than the Iowa State, but realistically, if there is a run, I don't think it goes much further than Auburn. It's not going to be realistic. So we're trying to make realistic upsets only. UNC, Michigan State, I could see it. If San Diego State wins, it does kind of bust that side of the bracket. But maybe San Diego State goes on a run again. They made it to Final Four not too long ago. Duke versus American. This should just be Duke. I don't really believe anybody would be taking American or Mount St. Mary's. Baylor is the favorites, and Mississippi State almost got picked as the 8th seed as an underdog, right on that 40 mark. Did not make the cut, though. So Baylor, we're picking Baylor there. Oregon versus Liberty. As much as I'd love it to be Oregon, it's Liberty. Liberty Bibberty. Arizona versus Akron. This is Arizona. Arizona keeps the edge there. They keep the edge there, and they beat out Akron. Just barely. BYU VCU. This should just be VCU. Yeah, they're not above 40. Wisconsin versus Montana. I don't know if Montana doesn't have over 15%, so Wisconsin. We're gonna go with St. Mary's versus Vandy. This should be Vandy, and it is Vandy. No, it's St. Mary's. It is St. Mary's. They are above the 40 threshold. Alabama versus Robert Morris. It should be Alabama. Yep. That's pretty simple. Alabama. Duke versus Baylor should just be Duke, right? Yeah, 5% taking Baylor. It's not realistic to have Baylor beating them. Liberty, this one's interesting. Liberty with 20% to beat Oregon. The 20, Sandy. See, we had UNC be like maybe at what is it, like maybe a 20%. Their percent chance dropped off going to Iowa State. 21, does it drop more than that? I don't think Liberty beats Arizona. I don't know if the percentages would be there for us. VCU versus Wisconsin. See, VCU, though, does kind of fit the range. They are high enough. They're 33%. Wisconsin only 68% favored against BYU. I don't know how close it would be, but we're taking VCU. It looks right. It just looks like possibly a good value pick there to make a run. St. Mary's versus Alabama. This should be St. Mary's, no? Yeah. Oh, St. Mary's only 12%. They don't actually. I thought for sure they'd get over 15%, and that means Alabama with a 71% chance. Wisconsin 29. You probably drop that to about 20. Yeah, Alabama, the clear favorites there to beat VCU. I don't know what's going on. Arizona does not meet the threshold there, and they lose to Duke. Duke versus Alabama. Alabama is in the threshold, so Alabama will be the team to knock off Duke. So we get a 1-2 and a 1-11. So the 1 seeds are probably going to fare pretty well because a lot of people are picking them. But we're trying to hedge our bets and make a somewhat realistic upset bracket. Realistically, these 1 seeds aren't going to get upset 9 times out of 10. So there is where we're hedging right there. Florida dominates. This one right here might be an upset. Yeah, 34. Oklahoma fits that 15 to 40 range. We're going to go with Oklahoma. Not a super popular pick. People do like this Oklahoma team, but people love UConn. Memphis. Colorado State. Just barely under that 40% threshold. They will be making the upset. And Grand Canyon just barely above the threshold, making the upset. Not an upset I personally agree with, but it's a realistic one according to the people's bracket. This is another one that could be very realistic. And now we have to wait. Of course, we have to wait. Drake, 40%. Ooh, we're at the 40% threshold. I say at the 40% threshold, we gotta take Drake. If it's 41, we don't. But Drake, just at the edge of the threshold, we're taking them. Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. Texas Tech should win that one. So a lot of fireworks here. Oklahoma underdog. Colorado State, Grand Canyon, Drake. A lot of fireworks here in this. What is this? The West region. Kansas versus Arkansas. I assume this is Arkansas. No, Arkansas doesn't meet the threshold, and Kansas wins. Just barely. Arkansas sitting at 41. And St. John's versus Omaha is a St. John's victory for us. Then we go to round 2 here, and UConn, only 11% favorites, so it makes our lives pretty easy here. Oklahoma ain't going to have a better chance than UConn. Memphis versus Maryland. Memphis has the edge, but let's see here. I would say that percentage for Grand Canyon being 16 against Maryland, they aren't going to go in there and they're not going to take Maryland's 64% chance. They're plus 20 in the first round. I think we got to go with Colorado State. They're plus 20% chance. We got to go with Colorado State. Drake versus Texas Tech. This is a game here that could be interesting. 40%. So, you see, they went from 40% to a 24%, which means they're probably about half of that. Texas Tech, I would like to think, probably has above an 85% chance to win if Drake does get through. So, that's one that's not a realistic one. St. John's, Kansas could be realistic, though. 20% picking Kansas, so we're going to ride with Kansas. My St. John's team, I'm a big fan of watching St. John's this year. Watched probably about 7, 8, 9 games of them. Real fun defensive team. It's not really a great shooting team, so it's kind of old school, going towards the basket. Get Kadari Richmond going. RJ Luis getting going. Yeah, we don't get to see them go super far, and I think that's definitely a possibility. With their as weak as their offense can be if you don't hit the 3-ball well. Florida versus Colorado State, this should just be Florida. Yeah, Maryland has a 12% chance. Colorado State does not have that same chance or better. Texas Tech versus Kansas. St. John's has a 27% chance. Or, I was looking up. St. John's has a 64% chance. That flips, though, because Kansas wouldn't have that same percent chance. They would have less than a 20% chance. Oh, do I think there's 5% drop? Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be more than that. We're going to have to ride with Texas Tech. Texas Tech. See, Texas Tech, though, beating Florida. They had a 36% chance to win against St. John's. They didn't. But I don't know if it's more than a 12% drop-off to beat Florida. So we are going to ride with Texas Tech to beat Florida. So we only have one seed in there right now, which is Auburn. Houston versus SIUE. This one should be straightforward. It should just be Houston. Yeah. Gonzaga versus Georgia could be interesting. It is Georgia winning at 34%. They are between the thresholds. Clemson versus McNeese. McNeese could be, I'm not picking McNeese in my own bracket, but they are the team here in the realistic bracket, or the realistic upset bracket. Purdue. High Point, another popular one. So this is kind of what you're seeing here with this bracket is a lot of 12 and 13 wins. Arizona the only one able to beat the 12-13 upset threshold. Illinois, Texas or Xavier winning, figured. Troy, they're not. I was going to say, I don't know if Troy really meets it. UCLA versus Utah State. This one could be interesting. It's Utah State coming out with the victory as an upset. And Tennessee Wofford should just be Tennessee. Yeah. Alright, so here's where things get interesting once more. UCLA did not have a above the chance, which means Utah State will not have a better chance. Tennessee advances. Illinois with a 29% chance to beat Kentucky. Go to 27 to beat Illinois. I don't know if it drops more than 14% from the next round. You know what? We're going to take Texas and Xavier. So what we've seen here with this bracket a little bit, and I'm not up there on baseball. What we've seen here is these 11 seeds can make some runs here according to the people. we get McNeese High Point. McNeese High Point. This is one where we're probably just gonna. They have a 19% chance to beat Clemson, an 18% chance. That's a true 50-50. Clemson expected to beat Purdue. We'll ride with McNeese because they are on the winning side of the bracket. Houston versus Georgia could be interesting. Gonzaga did not meet the threshold, which means Georgia will not meet the threshold. Houston advances, and Houston should beat McNeese. Yeah, 17% chance for Clemson. Them making this run is already below a 17% chance probably. McNeese cannot beat Houston there. So the 1 seed's having a really successful time outside of Duke. Duke getting eliminated here. Or my bad, outside of Florida. Florida and Duke, both. But Houston, they all I believe make it to the Elite Eight, the 1 seeds here with this people's upset bracket. Tennessee versus Xavier, or Texas versus Tennessee or Xavier. Kentucky with 29%. Let's say they have like a 20% chance to be. What was our percentages up here with? See, I think maybe we're just a little bit. Yeah, because the UNC run was in the 30s. I don't know if we can have the Texas run at 27. We're going to give it to Tennessee. And then we get Tennessee above the threshold, so Houston fends off the upset. Just barely, 42% for Tennessee, which means Houston is going to the Final Four. So we have a Final Four of Auburn, Texas Tech, Alabama, Houston. And Auburn is already below the threshold, but they should jump in front of the threshold now. With Texas Tech making a little bit of a run. Texas Tech had it below, maybe a 20% chance here. So Auburn should have above an 85% chance, I would imagine. So we're going to go with Auburn to win, not the popular one. Auburn to win there. Duke, Houston. We have Alabama, Houston. And Duke, I believe, was the clear favorite. So we're going to have yet another sorting of it out. Alabama, 24%. Duke drops 5%. Yeah, I think Alabama realistically can make it their name in the dance. Could get their name in the dance. And then Duke was the favorites, but they're not there. Auburn was the favorites, or Florida was the favorites to win out of the other side. They are not there. Auburn already above 40% chance to be there. Alabama significantly lower than that to be there. I think here we just got to go Auburn. We got to go Auburn here. And there you have it. There's our realistic upset bracket. And how realistic is it that only 12 or 13 don't win? Very unrealistic. But according to the people, these are the upsets to watch. You don't, maybe you do need to, but you don't really need to pay attention to the Lipscombs. You don't really need to pay attention to the Montanas. You don't need to pay attention to the Robert Morrises, the Bryants. You don't really need to pay attention to UNC Wilmington. These are all ones that pretty much everybody's in agreement will not advance. But maybe you want to make your bracket as somebody that picks against everybody else, completely, and you want to have an SIUE run. Maybe. But this ain't what we're going for. We're going for what people think actually could happen. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.